Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, everybody. It is now the top of the hour, so we're going to get started with our webinar today. Welcome, everybody, to FileHold's webinar workshops. Our webinars take place every Wednesday. In these webinars, we're going to be showing you some of FileHold's specific features and provide a general overview of our software product as well. My name's David Knight, and I'm going to be one of your hosts for today's webinar, along with my colleague, Mr. Chris Oliver. If you're interested in registering for any of our upcoming webinars that are listed below on the screen, all you have to do is go to our website at www.filehold.com and click the sign up for a webinar link to register for any of these webinars that are listed below here. All right, so at the completion of today's live demo, Chris and I will answer any of your questions that you might have. At any time, you can type your questions in our chat window and we'll answer and share your questions with the rest of the group at the end of today's live demo. Alrighty, so without any other further delays, we're going to get moving into the brief intro and then go into the live demo, as I said before. We like to compare FileHold to an iceberg, where above the surface, only a portion of our features are visible and actually being used by our customers. However, if you delve below the surface, you'll see that FileHold contains a wide array of features that are used to help store and manage your documents securely. In today's webinar, we're going to be looking at our latest feature, the Customer Forms Portal, or CFP, and show you this feature, how it can help with processing and storage of forms and other related documents in your office or department. As you know, forms are one of the most common ways that businesses use to gather data. Forms can be used to collect information both internally within your business and externally from your clients or customers. Forms are convenient, manageable, and allow users to provide important data for you. However, storing and processing forms is not an ideal solution at all. It's inefficient, it uses office space, not to mention the cost of storing documents off-site. Your documents can be damaged or destroyed. What if there's a fire or a flood? What are you going to do then? Also, manual paper processes are slow and inefficient. It's much quicker to transmit your documents electronically. Your documents are not stored securely. Anyone has access to these documents if they can go into a filing cabinet or a drawer. There's also no method of checking if your info is current and up to date. The CFP provides a simple and convenient way for you to transfer documents electronically. The Forms portal allows you to upload and download documents similar to using a bank machine to deposit or withdraw your money. Once your documents are uploaded into the CFP, they are transferred into FileHold's repository, where they are stored securely and can be searched quickly or circulated internally for review and approval. All right, so that ends the intro, and now I'm going to pass the controls over to Chris, and he's going to show you how the CFP works. Chris, are you ready to get going now?
I'm absolutely ready. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, loud and clear. So I'm going to make you the presenter, and we can see your screen very shortly.
That's excellent. And let me just know, can you see my screen there?
We can see, yes, the Google.
Excellent, that's perfect. So thank you, David. And first of all, let me just say welcome to everyone. We're always happy to see when people come out to our webinars, especially with this one, because we're so proud of this new feature. And we think it's really something that any of our customers can use to enhance their ability to share information with your customers and get that information back into the system fairly easily. Now, what I'm going to show you today is going to be kind of in two halves. And we're going to start off by taking a look at the portal itself. So when we're done that, we're then going to take a dive into FileHold, and I'm going to show you a bunch of the mechanics in the background. So let's get started here. We're just in a neutral web page, and I'm going to go over and I have a link here that will take me over to the Forms portal. So this is what your customers could be seeing when they log in. Now, I'm assuming that we've got nobody here from the Lakeside Community Customer Group, but that's okay. We've just done this as a mock-up to show you what your website could look like. So the top banner and the bottom banner down here, these are just HTML images that we've added into this. That's very simple and easy to put onto here, and that's something we can absolutely help out with for getting that customized. The portal itself, the really important part of this is what's contained here in the center. So we're seeing some different buttons. We've obviously got a help icon up here on the top. So anytime your customers can come over and try to get some help on an area. By the way, this is customizable as well. So you can have one general web page. You can have specific web pages that help you bridge out to other information, totally under your control. So you can determine the scope of what you want to provide to people. We've then got these four buttons: login, register, submit forms, and download forms. And again, these are available for you to be able to use, and your customers can log in. Now, here's an important part. When we developed the portal, we developed it to be able to allow people to both send forms anonymously and as a registered user. So we have capability for both options in this. You can allow anybody to add documents or only a registered user to add documents. And you can control that if you want to. So what I'm going to show you is both the ability to do things anonymously or as a registered user. I'm going to start at the bottom down here with the ability to download forms. This has been designed with different programs in mind. So when I select this, it's going to load what available programs there are. You saw that there's a bit of a spinning wheel there. It's actually loading in the list of programs live from my FileHold system. So then when I open this, I can see the different ends of things. Now, we've designed this to sort of look and feel like a community might do. So we've got everything from job applications to pet licenses. And when you select any one of these areas, you can then see the documents that are contained within this. So we can see a pet license application. And if I want to, I can select this and I can open it up with a view, and it lets me preview it for me on my interface. And I can see the form that's directly stored within FileHold. When I'm done, hit the X in the top corner, that minimizes, and I'm back to where I was before for the ability to download those program forms. And I can change the program to something else like a job application, and again, that information is going to change for me if I want to. So it's totally customizable where you can choose what the programs are going to be, you can choose what the forms are that are associated with those. You have as much or as little as you want to with that. When I'm done with this, I can go back to my home page, and then from here I could then go to the next option, which is to submit forms. And as I say, we've built this to allow you to do it anonymously. But if you say that, no, we don't want any anonymous usage, we just want registered users, that's completely fine. Very easy to format for that. So from here, again, I could choose the program, such as the job applications, and then I could upload a document to there and send it in. Let's done with that. Let's go back to the home page. I can register as a user. It's looking for those key pieces of information from me. This has been configured for first name, last name, address, cell phone number, and again, with a format that makes the most sense for you. When I was done, I could register. Now, I've already registered, so I'm not going to go through that process again. But there's an authentication process on the FileHold side that I'll very briefly show you for some of those elements to it. But basically, I have to register as a user by creating an offline document within FileHold. Now, those of you who are FileHold users might be wondering, does that mean I'm taking up user licenses? It does not. The portal that we're looking at here is totally independent from your registered user licenses. So you can have as many people registered into the CFP than you do that have into the FileHold, than you have in your FileHold account. Two totally separate worlds. So don't worry about having additional users in this here. You could have 1,000 people who are registered in the CFP and 5 users in your FileHold system, and it just means you have 5 people who can get access to those documents on the internals. So let's go ahead and log in now as if I was, as if I was a user. So I click login. Now I've saved my credentials into this, so I can just click the login button. Then it's going to take me in and show me my experience of the portal. Notice that it's got a greeting onto there, lets me know, says, hi Chris, lets me know who I am. And it also shows me any documents that I've already uploaded. We've associated those documents with me within FileHold. And again, I'll show you that on the back end. And if I wanted to, I could select that document and view it and take a look. And I can even download it again from the portal if I wanted to. So you've got some more options for that. Just like before, I can download forms. So I could come over to this and I could say, I want to grab a pet license off the system. Then I could choose that pet license and download it. And it's going to grab it from whatever my local browser settings are. So in this case, it's asking me if I want to save it. I sure do. It saves a local copy of that. Then I can open that from my web browser and from there launch onto my desktop and use whatever the native application is. So one of the other questions we get asked about this often is what kind of documents could they be? They could be any kind of document. In this case, I'm dealing with PDFs and eForms because FileHold is an extremely powerful eForm extraction rule that it can use to pull information right off of that. But if you've got another kind of document, if you've got a proprietary document that only uses your own internal software, you can still share that document onto the form. And as long as your user can open that, they can still access it. So the form portal is only limited to any kind of document you can put into FileHold, which is any kind of document. So there's no limitations to what you can put onto here. Big documents, small documents, it's entirely your system. It's just going to depend on what your customer's bandwidth will take in order to get that document down out of the portal. So now that I've downloaded this, maybe I'm going to go onto my, using my PDF editor, and I'm going to come into this, and I'm going to add this. And I'm just using Adobe Acrobat here, something that everybody can have access to. And I've already filled in some information, so I'm going to complete this. So we're going to give our, so let's call our pet here. We've got our pet called CFP, which is a weird name for a dog. Let's go with that. And now that I've done that, I'm going to save this as a file. So I just save a local copy for myself. Pet license application, that looks perfect. And I've grabbed that document and it's now ready for me on my local environment to add back into the portal. So I can minimize this for now, and we can go back over here to submit documents, and now I can choose to put this document back in. Now, one of the things we've designed this for is the ability to choose where I'm going to be submitting this up to. And in this case, I'm going to say it's a pet license. So I can let FileHold know what kind of documents coming in. It's ready to receive that pet license application. And now I can take that and I can just drag it right over from my desktop and plunk it down into there. And I can see my document. I can, if I wanted to, I can click on it. And again, it'll open that up with the viewer so I can see, here's my document that I just added. And when I'm satisfied with that, I can click the submit button. FileHold then is going to bring that document into my FileHold environment, and it lets me know that I've successfully submitted the document. Just to mention, all of these interfaces totally customizable. So if you say, I want to have some different information onto this, it's not, we're going to be contacting people within 10 business days. Of course, you could change all the verbiage on this. It's your portal, it's your system, it's under your control. Great, so now that I've done my document back into there, I can go back over to my home page, and then we can see that that document's been added in. Something else has happened over here, and those of you who know FileHold will know that I've put a naming convention onto this. So I've actually given this document its own custom name with, my last name, name of the dog, and the breed. So I've done that automatically just by adding the document through the CFP and into FileHold. Now, before I walk away from here, I also wanted to show you there's another button up here which lets me go into my account settings if I want to. So unlike the registration, I can reconfigure my password if I want to, or I can make any adjustments to my address or my information that I'm holding about FileHold for me, and then update it when I'm done. But in this case, I'm finished what I wanted to do here, so I can go ahead and log out, and I'm back on the form portal page, and I don't need to interact with this any further. So it's been designed to be as user-friendly as we wanted to make it. We've done some parameters on it, such as either allowing a registered or a non-registered user. We have different programs, and we have a bunch of different forms that people can download, complete on their desktop, and then load back up into the system. So all set up and ready to go. Now I'm going to walk away from the CFP for now, and we're going to step over and go back into the FileHold world. So those of you who've seen FileHold before, this is just using the web client. This should be familiar. I'm logged in as my own name. And over here, I'm an administrator. So I have lots of different rights and abilities. And here we're seeing the different areas of the system. So we're going to start over here at the top with our configuration. We've got a folder here called eForms. These are the actual, and I've expired because of course I've timed out because of my security standards. I was in the waiting room for a bit too long. So I'm going to come back over to here and go to the eForms, and this is going to show the different templates that I have built into the system. These are my forms that I've decided to designate and say these are where my documents are going to be living. Let's try actually clicking the thing over there. There we go. That's better. I'm waiting for something to happen that's not happening because I didn't click it. Perfect. So here we can see the different forms. So I've got my event applications, I've got my pet license application, other form templates that I may have had. Each of these will be associated with a schema, and that schema will allow me to pull that information from it. So if I right-click onto this, I can take a look at the metadata for it. And that's going to open up a side panel here on the side. It's going to show me some of those key fields of information. As soon as I add that eForm into here, FileHold extracts the information and adds it and gives me that information right added to the form. So this is the structure that we have in the background. Your end users aren't seeing any of that. All they're doing is adding the document in. We're doing the rest of the heavy lifting. And because these are eForms, we've got a lot of powerful extraction that we've pulled off of that. Our next folder over here has the program names. So here's where I was able to designate what I want my programs to look like within this environment. So I've got my different groups, and these look a little odd, but what I've done is I've created some offline documents from here. When I first got this system, we didn't have as many of these groups, but I decided I wanted to make some additional groups. So for instance, I made group F, so I can go into the metadata for it. It's just a placeholder piece of information, but it's where I decided to name this one all documents. And that's why when I was in the CFP, you'll have noticed there was an all documents category, so I could pull those documents over. Next thing down we have is our registered portal users. And when I select this, it's going to give me a bunch of my identifying information about my users. So in this case, me, we've renamed this document after the email address, but of course, you can make up your own naming conventions to whatever you want them to look like. So when I go over to the metadata here, we're going to see that information. So it's got all those same details that pulled off of there, as well as a unique identifier. We're giving each of our users their own identification name, because then I can attach that to the documents. So it knows that when I submit a document, it's going to use that unique identifier and push it on top of the documents. Very simple. So then when I come over here to see the documents that were submitted via the portal, I can see my extraction rules applied documents. So these are the ones where we actually put some logic into it, and we said, so here's my different documents, including our CFP with a dachshund on it, because that's the name of the dog that I gave it. And again, if I right click onto this and go to the metadata for it, we're going to see all those fields of information that I completed automatically added to the document, fully searchable, fully retrievable, all those points of information, and including that unique identifier for me, so that we know that this document is attached to my account. So when I open up the portal and I where I log in to the portal, I'm going to see my documents pushed forward there. So organized, easy to access. If we have documents that don't have an extraction rule applied to it, we have a different set of auto filing where we can then put it into our default cabinet or our default folder over here. We can place those documents that don't happen to have the same sets of information, just defaults over to here. So we're using those auto filing rules, we're using that data extraction, we're using all those different functions. Let's go a step further with this. We can also put these documents through a workflow as soon as they arrive. So I'm going to come up over here to the My Tasks. Those of you who've used workflow before, you know what the My Tasks look like. You can see I've got some different tasks here, including a demo workflow that kicked off as soon as I added that document in. So I know that there's a task that's been assigned to me. And additionally, I can even see, here's the email message that came through. So you can see the timestamp over here is 3:20 where I am. This came in at 3:14. So live, I added this in and I got an immediate email notification. So I can set it up so that when one of my important customers has sent a document in, I can make sure to pick that up from a workflow immediately, and I'm not having any lag time in between. So there's a notification process. There's additional levels of automation that I can put into this. Now, in my case, this is a very simple workflow. It's a one task. It's just an example that I've done for this, how we can automatically route documents for review and approval. But this could launch a complex series of functions. This lets me then come into this and look at that audit trail later on. What else did I need to do with this? Oh, we assigned this over to Chris at 3:14, but he didn't get to this until 3 days later. That goes outside of our 2-day guarantee. So there's something we need to do about this. Do I need to take corrective action? What can I do to help my team get better with their documents? We're giving you those tools with workflow. And all I had to do was add the document through the portal, and I launched a whole series of processes. Let's go even further to this. We can build in searches for these documents in order to make sure that we can find them later on. So as soon as I added in that document, we launched that workflow. We also added all the information for it into my system. So for instance, if I was to come over here, I've got a save search built for myself where I say, right, I want to look for information about these documents. And one of the common things I do is people come in and say, my Fluffy has ran away. So I want to be able to come into this and say, right, show me all of the licenses that have a name of a particular dog. I could do Fluffy, but in this case, show me any of those documents that have CFP in it. FileHold now goes out, it looks through my entire system, runs that search, and brings back the information for me. So it's going to show me any of the documents that happen to have the name of that one dog. So no having to hunt around the system, no having to browse through these. I could move these documents from this initial submitted by the portal. Once it's done its workflow, I could move it to another place. Like I could push it down into health and safety or into legal matters, whatever other departmental folders I have. Our search still finds it because it's looking for only the pet license documents and only looking in the pet name field to make sure it's finding exactly what I need it to. And I could also put some fuzzy logic searching into this. So in case, somebody misspelled Fluffy on their document and only spelled it with 2 F's instead of 3, I could make that change using a bit of fuzzy logic searching to find those documents. So an organized environment, controlled for access, only registered users can see this system from within my FileHold system. I've got a registered portal where I can have people tag their information onto documents. They can pass whatever they want. I can give whatever I need to them. They can pass whatever they want to back to me. Stored in an organized, controlled environment in a repository that has additional functions to it, like workflow, like searching, like courier, like all these additional functions with minimal amount of work. That's our customer forms portal, or CFP, and we're very proud of this. We think it will really do a lot to enhance people's experience of using FileHold and optimizing that sort of day-to-day operational experience. And so with that, David, I'd like to invite you to hop back in here and just find out, did anyone have any questions that came over to us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hopping back in, and we do have some questions, so we'll get
Excellent.
to them. If you do have any additional questions, just type away in the chat window and we'll respond to all the questions that came in. So here we go. The first question was, is it possible to get a virus from a uploaded document from an outside source?
So let's remember what FileHold is doing. We bring those documents over. We're putting them into the container and we're storing them. So if there was a virus into there, nothing's going to happen until that document's been activated. So it's absolutely possible for your internal software, which we assume you're going to do, to run antivirals over top of that environment. It's a great question. You don't normally worry too much about viruses because we're a document storage thing. We're not accessing that document. We're not making that virus live until it's been run through and activated by the program. So we can make sure that if you have security protocols in place, we can follow those. So great question. Thank you for asking it. Yes, we've thought about that, but we normally don't deal with antivirals. We allow your system to do that, and we don't interfere with that process.
All right, next question that came in was, does the end user need to have a PDF reader, fillable PDF tool in order to complete the forms on their end?
If it was a PDF, then yes, because we need something to be able to activate that. Now, the good news is we're not limited in what you can do for that. Whatever your customer wants to use for filling out that PDF, they can do that. One of the things that we don't want to do is encourage them to use something that's only going to capture an image of it. We don't want to bring scanned documents into it. We want something that's going to properly process it as an e-form PDF. And the simplest version of that is Adobe Acrobat. So the Adobe Reader will, which is a free software, most people have access to it. You can simply do that and complete the form and then bring it back into the system.
All right, another question here is, what type of browser does the portal work with?
We haven't encountered a standard browser that we can't use. So for example, I was using Chrome there, but I've used the CFP with Brave, with Firefox. I've even used it with iOS, with Safari. So it should be browser neutral. It's basically any sort of modern browser should be able to run it.
All right. Another question that came in is, does the platform support a link that directs to a third-party site, or does it have to be a form?
It's an interesting question. I haven't considered that before. So if you had a registered user could come in, they could then potentially have a link exposed to them as opposed to a form. I'm not sure about that. Now, I know that FileHold can store URL information as a metadata field. So if you had a metadata field associated with a document, even an offline document, potentially that could be shown. So that's a very interesting question. David, make sure if we have that information, we can mark down who asked that question, because we definitely want to engage further with that. My suspicion is we can, but I'd want to talk to our development team first before I made any hard promises.
Perfect. Yep, we've noted that question. So moving on to the next question is, how would we be able to add our company logo into the portal?
Very simply, what you were seeing there with that lakeside information, that was just something we threw together. We literally did a Google search for a shell image to put onto it. But frankly, we can put any image onto there, and it's also under your control. So if you want to update that image on a regular basis, if you want to evolve your CFP as you go, that's under your control, and you can very easily make those changes to it. In fact, what you're seeing there was so simple that I did it, and I'm not an IT person.
All right, another question here is, does the portal only work with PDF forms, or what other types of documents would it work with?
Any kind of document, if you can store it in FileHold, you can share it on the portal. But again, you have to grant access to that document. And also, it's worth considering, of course, your people aren't actually grabbing that original document. They're just getting a copy of it. So you can hand out as many photocopies off of that portal as you want to. So any kind of document, it's totally up to you.
All right, a few more questions just came in now, Chris. The next one here is, can we make certain forms private so only certain users can access them?
I imagine you can. It would obviously have to be a registered user so they could have access to it. Now, I'm not sure about the permissions as far as the offline documents. That may have to that level of document control may go more into registered users for FileHold as opposed to the portal users offline documents. But again, that's something that we should ask our team about. So let's pass that question on to our development team. David, do we have a note of who asked that?
Yep, absolutely. It's all recorded
Excellent.
here, so we'll get right
Perfect.
back with all those answers. Not a problem at all. All
Love
right.
those questions, the ones that we've never been asked before, because it always makes me stop and go, what are we capable of? And what I'm always surprised by is to find out how truly capable the software is to address those questions.
Absolutely. Here's another question that just came in right now. Would we be able to limit access to the permissions and schemas from the FileHold end, as in limit read-only, doc publishers, etc.?
I'm assuming yes, if I understand what we're asking, so that when somebody logs into FileHold, so we're talking about a registered FileHold user, and they're coming into the back end of the system and they're looking at there, we can control access to that user just like any other. Now, if you're talking about for the portal, we're effectively only being a read-only user who's adding a single document into FileHold. We're not giving them access into the system. We're not making them an owner of the document. The owner of the document is the portal. The person who submitted it is based on that unique identifier. So it's important to note that whoever's doing that submission in, they're basically using an existing account that you set up within FileHold just for the portal.
Great. I'm just holding into the questions area, just making sure there's not any more last minute ones. But I think we can start wrapping things up. If there is anything that comes in at the last minute, Chris, I'll just pass over to you. But I think we can wrap up today's webinar. If you do have any other further questions, anybody, just send an email to sales@filehold.com and we'll get right back to you. If you're wondering if there's going to be a recording for today's public webinar, yes, there will be, and we'll send that out to you sometime later this afternoon so you can take a look at that as well. So thank you everybody for attending today's webinar. If you are interested in registering for any of the other future webinars that are coming up listed on the screen, please do, and we'd be glad to show you any other further products that's happening with FileHold. So thank you and goodbye everybody.
Thanks everyone.